Hello and welcome to another episode of Damn Interesting Week. We are so glad you've decided to join us. My name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And this was a damn interesting week. So let's get started with our first link.
First link. All right, from the BBC. Messages in a bottle from World War I soldiers were found on the Australian coast.
Oh.
Earlier this month, a family in Western Australia found a thick glass bottle on a remote beach called Wharton Beach near Esperance. Inside were two letters written by Australian soldiers in 1916, just a few days into their voyage to join the battlefields of France during World War I. Now, Deb Brown and her family were doing one of their regular quad bike trips to clean up beach litter when they spotted the bottle in the sand. Now, even though the paper was wet, both letters were still legible. One letter was from Private Malcolm Neville to his mother. He's cheerful, telling her the food on board is, quote, real good, and that they're, quote, as happy as Larry. However, months after writing that letter, Private Neville was killed in action at the age of 28. Now, the second letter was written by a Private William Harley, who was 37 at the time. His mother had died years earlier, so he addressed his letter simply to whoever found the bottle.
Aww.
Unlike Private Neville, this Private Harley survived the war and returned home. So apparently just the contents of those letters was enough information to get Deb Brown tracking down the soldiers' families to pass the letters on. She located Private Neville's great-nephew, Herbie Neville. The great-nephew told ABC News the experience had been, quote, unbelievable for his family. Now, Private Harley's granddaughter, Ann Turner, said she and the soldiers' 4 other surviving grandchildren were, quote, absolutely stunned by the message. She said, it really does feel like a miracle. We do very much feel like our grandfather has reached out for us from the grave. I feel very emotional when I see that the other young man had a mother to write to, whereas our grandfather long ago had lost his mother, so he just writes it to the finder of the bottle.
Well, and he clearly had his children after he got back. If he's only got grandkids and he was in 1917, I mean, that's crazy.
And that he was 37 when he went as a private. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
Because when you're 18, you don't know death. But when you're 37...
Well, also, though, if you're a single man who's not married, like, there was definitely an attitude at the time of, like, you need to go because there's no one who's going to miss you if you die.
Right. That's your duty because you don't have a familial duty at this point.
Right, yeah.
But here's where the science gets kind of cool. So Private Harley's letter mentioned the bottle was thrown overboard somewhere in the Bight. That's Bight, which is referring to the Great Australian Bight off of the country's southern coast. So an oceanography professor told ABC it may only have been in the water for a few weeks before it landed at Wharton Beach, where it may have remained buried for 100 years in the sand. So it's possible this bottle spent a century buried in the sand rather than bobbing around in the ocean all that time, which is why we can still retrieve and read it, right?
Right, I mean, that makes more sense.
Kind of amazing, though, just to think of 2 young men heading off into one of the most brutal wars in human history, taking a moment to be like, hey, we think this could be all right. We're eating real good.
Yeah, I find that very suspicious. The food in World War I was not real good. Like,
no, but I'm sure that he was trying to make his mom feel better.
Yes,
right?
yes.
Like, hey, we're being taken care of. Don't worry about a thing. Months later, dead. But the other one. But yeah, I guess if you're going on a big journey and it's seaside, I don't know.
Throw your litter in the ocean.
Yeah, it makes me feel like I want to throw a letter in the ocean for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I said litter.
Oh.
No.
Same.
This is a pro-pollution article, you got to admit.
No. Pollution or history? Let's let the archaeologists decide.
Right.
Next link?
Next link.
This article comes to us from The Conversation, titled, With More Moon Missions on the Horizon, Avoiding Crowding and Collisions Will Be a Growing Challenge.
Traffic.
Yeah, and I don't know about y'all, but I very occasionally will just stop and think about all the junk that's in space. And I'll think of that one scene from Gravity with Sandra Bullock, where she goes spinning because like a microscopic piece of space trash just like punctures the International Space Station.
Yeah.
And then there's a very vomitorious scene where she's just like spinning because you can't stop yourself out there.
Right.
Yeah, that was a wild one to watch on IMAX 3D. Do not recommend.
Yeah, that's a lot. But in this scenario, we're talking about trash or really satellites around the moon. So the area around the moon, referred to as cislunar space, extends from geostationary orbit out to the moon, an area with a volume 2,000 times larger than Earth's orbital area. This size discrepancy seems to suggest crowding around the moon may not be an immediate concern. However, missions tend to choose from a select set of stable orbits around the moon, so the vastness of cislunar space may be misleading when thinking about whether missions will intersect. Also, most government sensors that track spacecraft aren't capable of consistently detecting and monitoring objects so far away from Earth, partly due to the glare of the moon itself. The authors published their work in March 2025 in the Journal of Spacecraft and Rockets, showing that due to the popularity of certain orbits and the uncertainties regarding each spacecraft's location, potential collisions become an issue surprisingly quickly. The simulation shows that with only 50 satellites in lunar orbit, each of those satellites will need to maneuver 4 times a year on average to avoid a potential crash, which is a significant cost in terms of fuel, as well as potential disruption to mission objectives. Lunar orbit could easily reach that number of satellites within a decade if activity continues to increase. But monitoring cislunar space is not just important for safety, it can also help support national security. Multiple countries have weapons that can destroy satellites, and some in the space community are concerned that space weapons could be placed in cislunar space to escape detection.
Yeah, also, we're definitely considering putting our own there as well. Like, anytime they're like, other countries are thinking, it's like, we've already thought of it, I assure you.
Yeah, like, we're just projecting with the formal language. Yeah.
Or we already have it, and you guys can't.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. But apparently the U.S. currently has significant gaps in its ability to monitor this region, and research suggests that developing this capability, referred to as cislunar space domain awareness, should be a priority for national security. The Air Force Research Lab is funding a program called Oracle that is developing multiple systems to improve the U.S. ability to monitor cislunar space. The first Oracle satellite is expected to launch in 2027, and it will be located at a Lagrange point, which is a spot between the Earth and the Moon where the gravitational pull of each object keeps the spacecraft in a stable position. From there, it can detect objects in cislunar space that sensors on Earth cannot see. And improving monitoring is only one part of the solution. Entities sending missions to the moon, including governments and companies, will need to share the locations of their operational missions to avoid collisions.
If there's one thing we do really well in this world is coordinate with other nations.
Right.
Yes, yeah. I mean, we literally need like the space equivalent of air traffic control. And, that took a while to get to.
Right.
And also just like protect the moon too. Let's not blow it up or anything.
No,
we're going to need that.
Yeah. I mean, we get our first base on the moon, and then they're going to be able to monitor everything, at least on that side of the moon.
Yeah, that other side, though.
That's where the aliens are.
Right.
Exactly. Next link.
Next link.
All right, this comes from The Guardian. You were asleep, but swear you weren't. What is paradoxical insomnia? In 2018, Hannah Scott, a sleep researcher at Flinders University, waited for a woman to fall asleep. This can take time when the subject is connected to equipment measuring brain activity, eye movement, heart rate, and muscle activation. But about 30 minutes after the woman closed her eyes, Scott saw the telltale signs of sleep from the EEG, a shift to lower frequency brainwaves. The woman progressed into deep sleep and was there for quite a while, Scott said. Then the woman suddenly woke up, saying she had to go to the bathroom. As Scott detached her from the machines, the participant apologized, saying she felt terrible she hadn't been able to fall asleep yet. When a person is sleeping but doesn't know they are, this is called sleep state misperception. It's a frequent issue in insomnia, says Matthew Reed, a neuroscientist and sleep researcher at Johns Hopkins School of Medicine. An insomniac may say they've barely slept, but when testing in a sleep lab, they might actually be sleeping a normal number of hours per night. This experience, which affects a significant number of insomniacs, has had various names: paradoxical insomnia, subjective insomnia, sleep state misperception, and most recently, subjective objective sleep discrepancy.
Rolls off the tongue.
By any name, the phenomenon reveals that we don't always know when we're asleep or awake, and that our beliefs about sleep influence how rested we feel. At the same time, researchers are finding that people with paradoxical insomnia may not be entirely wrong. There may be something real that lies between sleeping and wakefulness. So in 1959, French doctors first described a patient who observed sleep time didn't match up with how many hours she thought she slept. The doctors named the condition fausse insomnie, or false insomnia, and believed it was caused by her being overly worried about sleep. But it's far from rare, Reed says. By some accounts, about half of the people with insomnia sleep less than 6 hours a night, while the other half sleep more than 6 hours, an amount comparable to good sleepers' time.
How much sleep can a good sleeper sleep if a good sleeper knew that they slept?
Thomas Andrelian, a cognitive neuroscience at the Paris Brain Institute, has a hunch that awareness during sleep is more nuanced than previously believed. Sleep researchers determine someone is sleeping when they lose awareness of the world around them and when their brain activity shifts from high amplitude to low frequency oscillations. So EEG readouts will feature sleep signatures like slow waves and sleep spindles or specific bursts in activity. But commonly used observational techniques might miss the nuance of brain activity during the transition into sleep or the moments between sleep stages. He said that when other researchers have studied deeper areas of the brain, they found signals of arousal even when people seemed asleep. The fact that they looked like they were sleeping is only true at a superficial level, he says. When you drive a bit more into the details of the brain activity, you see signs of wakefulness that you would typically not see during normal or standard sleep. So experts are now shifting the term subjective objective sleep discrepancy, or SOST, rather than paradoxical insomnia or sleep state misperception, because that kind of puts the blame on the person.
Right.
So in a study from March, in a group of more than 800 people with insomnia, 24% had subjective objective sleep discrepancies. Andrelian said his colleagues found differences in the physiological profile between the two kinds of insomniacs. People with SOST didn't wake up very often, but when they did, their waking state was tainted with signatures of sleep, which could influence their judgment about not sleeping well or not having slept. Conversely, the sleep of insomniacs without SOST had wake-like features, meaning their sleep was of lesser quality. So it won't be useful to just overcome. There's an association between SOST and anxious or worried thoughts about your sleep. Instead, a helpful tool for paradoxical insomnia could be a strategy called paradoxical intention, which encourages poor sleepers to stop trying so hard.
Have you tried relaxing or calming down?
Just chill out, man. Just relax, dude.
I did read a thing once that claimed, at least, that if you just lay still, you're getting like between 60 to 80% of the benefits of actual sleep. And so just laying there awake is still better than, getting up or being on your phone or whatever. And that honestly helped a little bit, and it made me feel less anxious about not sleeping.
I have done that when I haven't been able to sleep, and you do feel a little more rested, but it is very boring.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the short end of the stick. We still don't know what's going on with sleep. That's kind of the result of this study is, we're still looking into it.
Yeah.
Next link.
Next link.
All right, this next one comes from The Guardian, and it's about a record-breaking cave diver who risked his life sort of for the advancement of science, but I would say mostly for the glory of it. So the diver's name is Richard Harris, which you may not know that name, but you definitely know about him because he is one of the expert divers who helped rescue the boys trapped in a cave in Thailand back in 2018. He is not, it should be noted, the one that Elon Musk famously called a pedo guy, but he is the one who came up with the idea of putting the boys under anesthesia so that they could be carried through the underwater passages without panicking. He's also the one who actually injected the boys with the drugs because Harris is, in his professional life, an anesthesiologist, which is why he has so much money to spend on an expensive hobby like cave diving. Side note, because this is from The Guardian, they keep referring to him as an anesthetist, which is what Harris's job is also called in Australia, where he's from, but that's much harder to say, so I'm going to Americanize it. Anyway, If you want to know more about the Thai rescue in particular, Harris and his diving partner Craig Challen wrote a book about it, which seems pretty interesting and apparently corrects a lot of details that the media got wrong. But since then, Harris has continued living his extreme cave diving life and has most recently been the subject of a documentary called Deeper, which chronicles his attempt to dive deeper than almost any human ever has. I say almost because the actual cave diving record is currently held by a French diver who went down 308 meters into the Font Estremar in the eastern Pyrenees. But that cave is relatively easy to access and is in fact a very common place for people to go and break the record every so often. Harris had his eyes on a much more difficult cave in New Zealand known as the Pierce Resurgence, where people have died much closer to the surface, and Harris himself almost died in 2007.
Ooh.
In fact, the Pierce Resurgence is so remote that it can only be reached by helicopter. There is, of course, no phone service, and only an occasional 15-minute window for satellite service. The water is just above freezing at 6 degrees Celsius year-round, and the surrounding forest is very wet, so your campsite will not be pleasant even on so-called dry land. And Harris is obsessed with this cave, partly because every time he goes a little deeper into it, he's seeing something that no human ever has. Like, we literally still don't know how deep it is. Quote, "It's very hard to describe, but it gets into your system. The more you do it, the more you need to do it." But one of the main difficulties with these dives is that at a certain depth, humans begin to suffer from high-pressure neurological syndrome, which causes, among other things, severe hand tremors. The syndrome itself isn't going to kill you, but if you can't use your hands to operate your equipment in a difficult cave, you will die. And it seems like maybe Harris gets these hand tremors a little sooner than some other divers, which was obviously very frustrating for him. Back in 2020, he made it all the way down to 245 meters within the Pierce Resurgence before the hand tremors became too severe to go on. But Harris, as we know, is an anesthesiologist. So he came up with the idea of introducing hydrogen gas into the breathing mixture to take advantage of its narcotic effects and hopefully calm the hand tremors. If it worked, he would be the first person ever to use this new breathing mixture for the purposes of diving, and if it didn't work, he could explode.
Wow.
And the documentary really makes it clear that nobody on the team was certain about this. Harris called it, quote, "informed risk acceptance," and his diving partner Challen told him that if he exploded, quote, "I'll pick up as many pieces as I can to bring back home." Both of them also said, however, that if they died, they didn't want anyone else risking their lives to retrieve their bodies, which is nice. Like, I think you should always make that disclaimer if you're doing something insanely dangerous.
Agreed.
Fortunately, long story short, he didn't explode. Harris's hand tremors began at 180 meters, and at 200 meters, he flipped the switch to stop breathing the standard helium mixture tank and start breathing the hydrogen. The tremors stopped, they went cautiously deeper, and Harris says he could have gone well past his previous record of 245 meters, but because the breathing itself was the experiment here, they turned back at the agreed-upon 230 meters. Of course, the other difficult part about dives this deep is that you have to surface very, very slowly in order to avoid the bends. So slowly, in fact, that you can't possibly carry that much air down with you in a narrow cave. What you have to do instead is bring down a series of watertight chambers that you stage along the path back up where you can get inside and just wait out the time before re-entering the water and moving a little closer to the surface. For Harris and Challen, they had to spend an hour in a chamber at 40 meters deep, 2 hours at 28 meters, 4 hours at 16 meters, and 5 hours at just 7 meters deep. And a lot of this was still very much in the danger zone for the mission. But by the third chamber, Harris and Challen were pretty confident that things were going to work out. Quote, "We were sort of looking at each other with dopey smiles on our faces and not really talking." Because he was high. Yeah, they don't mention how long it takes to come down off of hydrogen, but presumably he was sober by the time they finished their 12-hour ascent, which in itself is wild to me, that you would spend 2 hours diving and then 12 coming back up. But, you know, that's why these guys are crazy. Now, the hope, of course, is that other divers will be able to make use of this technique and go even deeper than the current records. But Harris claims that for him, it's finally enough. He says he can't keep stressing out his wife, Fiona, with these adventures, and that, quote, "I shouldn't need to get to the bottom of a cave to be okay with who I am."
Yeah, I call BS on that. Give it 5-10 years and he's going to do it again.
Oh, I don't think it'll even be that much, because he tells Challen in the documentary that he's no longer obsessed with the Pierce Resurgence and he won't be coming back, to which Challen replies, "Well, where are we going then?" Because he knows. He doesn't believe for a second that this guy is going to quit doing what he's doing.
Right. So, right. That specific place, but where else? Right.
Yeah. We'll pick the one that doesn't immediately kill us, but we're still going. I mean, come on.
What else is there?
Yeah. But yes, I have a particular fear of underwater cave. Like, the entire concept freaks me out. So these guys, I look at them and it's not just like, oh, wow, y'all are like, what? I'm like, no. You're categorically insane. You need to be evaluated. There's no reason.
I'm a scuba diver, and cave diving, has never appealed to me. It's horrifying.
Even scuba. I have no reason to be terrified of it, but I absolutely am.
Well, my dad did it with me when I was 9, so I didn't have any idea to be scared. So that's the trick. You just do it too young.
Right. And then the bends, they get you.
Correct. I am shorter than everybody else in my family.
Next link?
Next link.
Well, Halloween may be over, but from the Smithsonian Magazine, the giant pumpkin world record just crept closer to 3,000 pounds. Oh, yeah.
Okay, speaking of insane people.
Oh, yeah. Let's dive into the world of competitive giant vegetable growing, because it's full of folk. Specifically, twin brothers from the UK just broke the world record with a pumpkin weighing 2,819 pounds. That is, in fact, heavier than most cars.
Wow.
This thing had a circumference of over 21 feet.
That's not even a pumpkin anymore. I mean, what is that?
It's very Jabba the Hutt because they have such a flat bottom and they kind of lean over. The pictures are definitely worth scoping on this one. Their names are Ian and Stuart Payton. They're now 64. And they started growing pumpkins about 50 years ago. So when they were, teenagers? And it all started when someone gave them a seed packet featuring a little girl sitting on an impossibly large pumpkin. And that first year, they grew a 54-pound pumpkin.
Wow.
This year, they grew one that's 52 times heavier than their first one. Now, Ian describes it as, quote, pumpkin sickness, accurate, because once you grow one, quote, you are inflicted forever. And this win is extra special because it's Stuart's last season before retiring from the pumpkin patch. So
again, that's what he says. Yeah. And also, you got to start when you're young.
You
clearly,
do. You do have to
our
start
young
when
boys
you're
are
young.
impressionable.
It's true, but we've had so much progress in how giant pumpkins have gotten exponentially more giant over the past few years. There's definitely a bit of a hockey stick curve there. So let's talk about what it takes to grow these monsters. You can't just grab any old seed from your local hardware store. They have to come from a specific variety called Atlantic Giants, which were patented by a Canadian named Howard Dill in the 1970s. Now, premium seeds from previous world records, they can cost several $100s per seed. And there's also the weather to consider. So apparently there is this magic zone around the 45th parallel. That's latitude that we're talking about globally here. And it's exactly halfway between the North Pole and the equator. Apparently here's where conditions are perfect for growing prize-winning giant produce because you need a balance of sunlight and summer heat. That's why most record pumpkins come from places like Portland, Oregon, or central Minnesota, or northern Wisconsin, and even parts of France and Germany. The Pattons actually grow in a 7,200 square foot greenhouse because the UK weather isn't quite ideal. And this is also where soil science gets a little obsessive. So growers will maintain a slightly acidic pH of 6.2 to 6.5, and they monitor micronutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, even molybdenum, which I only remember from having to memorize the scientific table of elements. I've never come across it otherwise. And molybdenum is the microest of the micronutrients because you need less than a gram for a 500 square foot patch. That's how precise they're getting with the chemistry here. Now, during peak season, the growers can put down 150 gallons of water a day. These are thirsty, thirsty plants.
Oh.
Well, and also if you're above the 45th, presumably you've got some things and it's not like growing them in Texas, God forbid.
Right.
But elite growers can see their pumpkins gain 60 to 70 pounds per day for 10 to 15 days straight. Yeah. Imagine watching something grow 3 pounds an hour.
Yeah, I mean, that's just like you're just filling up the inside with just pure water.
Yeah, that's true. Attach a hose to it and just watch it swell.
Well, there's definitely alchemy involved because plant physiologist Jessica Savage at University of Minnesota Duluth discovered that giant pumpkins have more vascular systems than normal pumpkins, especially something called phloem, Phloem, which specifically transports sugars. So giant pumpkins apparently can add vascular tissue wherever they need it.
You want to know my incredibly stupid fun fact about phloem?
Yes!
I know that word because the strings on a banana are called phloem bundles. And that's just the technical name for them. And for whatever reason, that incredibly stupid fact has always stuck in my head. And so now you know, the strings on a banana are called phloem bundles, just like giant pumpkins, apparently.
Yeah, they're like the autobahns of sugar transport, which makes a lot of sense for a banana now. How about that?
Anyway, go ahead.
I love that. The time commitment for growing giant pumpkins is, as you might guess, somewhat intense. So the twins spent about 1 hour per day per pumpkin. And they grew 6 this season. So that's 6 hours daily,
Wow.
7 days a week, no holidays, no traveling. As Ian says, quote, "Our wives know exactly what they married." Not who they married. He says what they married. And yeah, the community even jokes about pumpkin widows and widowers, which I'm sure you can understand the implication there. The hobby is described as, quote, both soul-crushing and excruciating because there's just enough excitement to override the soul crush, which, oof. And that's because this is a really, for being a giant pumpkin, it's kind of delicate. If you get heavy winds, they can shred the huge leaves. Stems can split. Soft spots can form. Sometimes too much rain will cause too much growth too fast, which can actually split and make pumpkins explode. In fact, the Pattons lost 3 of their 6 pumpkins this season. Those were actually 200 to 300 pounds larger than a record breaker, but they split from their own weight around day 50 of growing, which, imagine the heartbreak. Excruciating.
And what do you do with all that pumpkin? Like,
That was my question.
Well, to be fair, the way that these have been grown are for size, and so flavor doesn't really factor into it anymore, but I'm sure they make great compost, just landing wherever they are.
Sure, that's true.
As for whether the pumpkins can keep growing, well, they've been plotting top pumpkins and running statistical analysis for 20 years, and the data is showing a very linear relationship. But there is the law of diminishing returns that has to come into play because it does everywhere else in nature. And we don't know where we are on that inflection point, which sounds like an observation that goes well beyond giant pumpkin growing.
Right.
What makes this subculture really special is just how collaborative it is. Make no mistake, this is a deeply competitive sport, but it's also very niche. So growers will share their seeds. They'll mentor newcomers. They will exchange ideas online, very healthy forums and bulletin boards, and even at annual meetups. The Pattons themselves say they have, quote, no secrets, and will sit down with anybody to help them out. Because, as Ian puts it, we prefer to think of pumpkin growing as the friendliest sport in the world.
Do they make money from this sport, or are they just pouring money into this sport? Because that pumpkin has to cost a fortune.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, old men have hobbies, and they're all expensive. And
True.
I don't think you could point to any 64-year-old man and be like, he doesn't spend his money on anything frivolous to entertain himself. It's fine. Right.
Yeah, my dad spends all of his money really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah.
You're not really hurting folk making giant pumpkins. So
Yeah, it's harmless.
Next link?
Next link. I've got a short one for us from Vice titled, "What's Up with Those Blue Dogs in Chernobyl?"
Scary.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen the photos, a pack of blue-furred dogs has been spotted at Chernobyl, the infamous site of a 1986 nuclear meltdown. Pictures of the blue dogs started spreading online, instantly sparking panic about genetically mutated dogs. Luckily, some actual scientists chimed in to explain that no, these are not genetically mutated animals, they're just dirty, in a Woodstock 99 kind of way. So there's an organization out there called Dogs of Chernobyl, and IFL Science spoke to the team, who confirmed that the images they released online of the blue dogs were authentic. They also clarified that the photos were of 3 separate dogs, all photographed in Chernobyl on October 6th, 2025. And if you look up the article, you can find the dogs. They are dogs. They are blue. I don't know how else to put it.
Like Blue's Clues blue or?
Not quite. A little more stained, which you'll see why. So the researchers even provided a reason the dogs are blue, and it has nothing to do with a nuclear mutation. They are blue because of porta potties.
Oh, that's even worse somehow.
Yeah. Apparently the dogs had been rolling in the bright blue chemical fluid used to deodorize human waste in portable toilets. Dogs of Chernobyl's veterinary medical director, Dr. Jennifer Betts, said, "We are not in any way saying that it is related to radiation in Chernobyl. Other than the fact that they've been rolling in portable toilet juice, the dogs appear to be healthy, or as healthy as a pack of stray dogs can be."
Wow.
The Chernobyl dogs are descendants of pets left behind after the 1986 nuclear disaster, when 120,000 people were evacuated from the area. Decades later, their progeny roam the ghost towns around Pripyat, becoming accidental social media sensations in the process. The Dogs of Chernobyl program has spayed or neutered over 1,000 of these dogs since 2017 in an effort to keep the semi-feral population from overexpanding.
Why are there porta potties out there? Like, I mean, I
Who
guess
are they
Chernobyl is more
for?
open than it used to be.
Right, and how are they rolling in it? Is somebody knocking over those porta potties?
I mean, the wind can knock one over pretty easily, unfortunately.
Fair.
I've seen that
Yeah.
happen.
Oh,
Okay.
true.
But,
Yeah.
like, if this is a recent porta potty, I don't understand who's out there.
Well, I think they do go out there to firm up areas that, maybe need more protection. So I imagine they have crews occasionally, but maybe it's the kind of thing where they just, leave the porta potties behind.
Yeah.
They're just like, whatever, it's Chernobyl. Just
Yeah.
let them have it.
It feels very on brand for us to be like, hey, we destroyed this area. We're going to cautiously go back in. What's the first thing we're going to do? Leave a bunch of porta potties everywhere. Like, we've learned nothing.
And it's
Yeah.
still kind of in the middle of a little contested zone that we've got going on right now, too.
Oh,
So,
well, cool. We really haven't learned our lesson. All right.
yeah. Not at all.
All right. Well, that is all we have time for today. We're so glad you've joined us. Some of the articles we did not have time to get to today include: do black holes really need singularities? Here's how the AI crash happens, and zombie worms have gone missing. So all that and more, plus everything we talked about today, can be found on damninteresting.com. If you like our podcast and want to support us, you can do so at patreon.com/damninterestingweek. In the meantime, my name is Jennifer Lee Noonan.
I'm Angela Epley.
I'm Spurr-Chen.
I'm Bradley Calhoun.
And we hope you have a damn interesting week. Bye-bye.